All right. Hey guys, welcome to another Real Dads Network. My name is Ishmael. I'm the felicitator today. Also, I have Ron with me too. We have a special guest with us today because today we're going to talk about suicide. And the reason why we're talking about it because June is Men Mental Health Awareness Month. And when it comes to the Black community, when it comes to Black males, when we talk about suicide, we don't talk about it. Whatever emotions we're feeling, we keep it to ourselves, and it gets to a point where something happens, and then one of our brothers take their life, and we're like, oh my God, we didn't know. So we have a special guest with us, Donald Somerville with us. Brother, how you doing, brother? Thank you for joining us.
It's an honor to be here. I want to start out by saying Happy Father's Day to every last one of you. This is our time when the nation has to stop and pause and reflect on fathers. Unfortunately, most of the reflection is not always positive, but we get to build each other up. So I commend each and every one of you for doing the work, or as Derek says, doing the damn thing. Right? I've worked with Derek for many, many years. Uncle Mike did fatherhood work in the Bronx and Westchester. I run other programs in Harlem, and I'm working with Derek on some programming and funding for the Fatherhood Center that I'm very excited about in East Harlem. So you will see me again. This is not my first time being here, and it's definitely not going to be my last. So I'm glad to be here tonight for everyone. I want to really kind of presence this because we are going to be talking about a topic, and I've presented this on several occasions. I presented the New York State Fatherhood Conference and been going kind of circuit around discussing this topic because it is called the silent epidemic. And we'll get into it. So I want to do a couple of things. First, I'm going to present the information. There's some data that I'll go through and some things like that through a PowerPoint presentation, and then we get to have a conversation. And the conversation is because we have the solution to the problem. There are a lot of problems that we face that we don't have a solution to. This one we have the solution to, and I want to talk about what that solution is and how we can intervene with that. So let's just get ready to jump into it. If you're using a mobile device, you might want to turn it, horizontal so that you can see the slides. I do have some slides I want to show you. And also, when we get started, we're going to talk about a few things that's going on here. So we did some test runs beforehand, so I believe we should be okay. So, all right, can everybody see that? All right. So tonight we're going to be talking about overcoming death by suicide, a Black male silent epidemic. People use the phrase commit suicide, and we really don't use that phrase anymore when we talk about in the mental health space because it does not give place for individuals to understand that when someone succumbs to suicide, it is not because they have thought to do it. It's really because of the levels of stresses and duresses that they're under. And so we don't want to victimize those who've been victims and calling them that. So it is death by suicide. And what we learned about death by suicide is some really powerful things. But I want to take a moment to listen to this brother as he talks about something, because this will be a point of conversation for us in a little bit.
When a man says he's hungry, ladies, it just means that he's hungry. It's not an attempt to spit an intricate bar. He is not talking in metaphors or similes about power, ambition, or greed. He is not rethinking the relationship, thinking about breaking up or backdoor asking for a threesome with another woman. Most of the time, he's not even thinking about you getting him a plate of food. So please do not think, do not dig deep, because it's not that deep. Hungry just means he just wants to be fed. But when a man says, I'm tired, inquire, probe, demand him to elaborate, because tired is different. Tired doesn't mean sleepy. Tired can mean that I'm tired of living, tired of going on, tired of moving forward, tired of just dealing with this life, tired of losing. And you know that your man does not take losing well, and you know that your brother does not take losing well, and you know that your father does not take losing well. Do you know that your son does not take losing well? So if he feels like he's losing in the game of life, he might not just take his ball and go home. He might go home and take some pills or a bullet. Your man's tired is different. He needs more affection, more energy. He's tired of dealing with the shit that's going on, tired of going on, tired of moving, tired of losing, feels like he lost anything, feels like he's not worth anything. And I know what you're probably thinking. Why can't he come to me and say that he's feeling suicidal like he tells me he's hungry? Because society doesn't let strong men say that I want to kill myself. Because society finds more value of life. He might not just take his ball and go home. Can he come to me and say that he's feeling suicidal like he tells me he's hungry? Because society doesn't let strong men say that I want to kill myself. Because society finds more value in finds more value in a valuable man more than a vulnerable one. Because strong men have problems with saying words like weak and help. So we strong men push our pain deep inside our bodies, turning temples into tombs. Tombs turn into tumors and ulcers and self-doubt and anxiety until one day we don't know where we're gonna put it. And then, my best friend, known him for over 25 years. I am godfather to his first son. His mother calls me son. Our black boy Joy spanned so long that I would hide a body for him without a question. He told me recently that 9 years ago he thought about killing himself, and I was fucking angry. I asked him, why didn't you come to me? And his reply was, I didn't know that I could. Thank you.
I didn't know that I could. That's where many of us find ourselves. And as this poem was being spoken, there may be some of us who have been in that situation, because we recognize that the trials of manhood and fatherhood are very heavy and that we carry a weight. And as a result of that, we've seen individuals who have not been able to make it. Prior to the pandemic, the largest rate of suicide in the country were men between the ages of 40 and 55. That has been a statistic that has been in place that most people are not aware of. But something happens in the heart of a man when he turns 40, and aspirations and dreams start setting, and they start realizing I may not be able to accomplish the things that I thought I was going to accomplish when I was 20, and when I was 30. Life gets real, real hard. And so we see that men have started choosing suicide as a way out. But after the pandemic, we saw a shift in that. Not such a shift in terms of the gender, but in the group. And that group wasn't just men, but the ages started getting lower and lower. Younger and younger males started succumbing to suicide. Death by suicide. It became a tragedy. It's become what we're calling now an epidemic. So I want to go through some of the information that's out there, and then I want to have a conversation so we can discuss exactly what's going on. Good. So let's look at the data. Journal of American Medicine Association came up with a study in 2021, and it revealed that Black men had a larger increase in suicide attempts than any other racial group. And this started us on this voyage of looking as to what's going on, because this wasn't the case 5 years prior. That now Black men was had a larger increase. The numbers had exacerbated. From 2007 to 2020, the suicide rate of not just Black men, but among Black youth increased from ages 10 to 17 by 144%. So this issue that's going on is not just something that is hitting men who come to the age of 40. And at 40 is one psychologist saying that we recognize that death actually is real, that you can't really comprehend fathom the realities of death until you're in your 40s. That now this is not just a 40 plus issue, but we see a 144% increase in death by suicide of our youth. Also, we recognize that Black men die by suicide at more than 3 times the rate of Black women. And so it's not just an issue of Black people, but it's also something that's specific to Black men. The brothers are deciding that they can't do it anymore. And they're deciding that they have to go. Boys ages 0 to 19 have more than twice the rate of death by suicide compared to Black girls of their age group. So again, it was once something that was relegated to men in their 40s to the 55, and then we see the numbers dropping. And even from 0 to 19, we're seeing death by suicide. And it's not just a Black issue, it's a Black male issue. Because it was just Black people under the duresses of living in a racist and marginalized society, those numbers would be consistent across the board, or at least closer between men and women. But we don't see that. We see the numbers are specific to males. So what are some of the contributing factors? And I want to say this, that we found some data, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But what was once believed was that lack of access to care, lack of cultural competency and diversity within healthcare, social stressors that affect structural and systemic racism, and stigma that comes with being diagnosed with mental illness. So in essence, that there is not enough services that are aimed towards and for Black men. But we get to watch out for certain things. And I'm going to come back to that a little bit later because I want to stop and start the conversation so that we can start talking about it, because this is one of the things that we get to do is have the discussion. One of the difficult things having this kind of talk, why is this happening? Hold on one moment. Okay, can everybody see me? You see the screen? Or do you see each other?
I see you.
Just me?
Yeah.
Can you see other brothers in the screen?
Yes.
All right, good, because sharing just did some really crazy things. All right, so cool. All right, so let's have the conversation, because that's really why we're here, talk. You know, Kevin Campbell said, "Can we talk?" So let's do that tonight, because has anybody here been touched? Meaning, you know someone or know someone who has either attempted or has succumbed to suicide? Yeah. Now, anyone, okay. Has anyone here know someone who has either attempted or succumbed to suicide who is a Black male? Okay, so we're in the house. All right. So let's just first get a feel for what we heard so far. What are we hearing, and what comes to mind when you heard that information?
I'll go. I think it's trying to find a tribe, trying to find somewhere to belong. For me personally, I just, trying to find people to relate to, because, being vulnerable and sharing is considered kind of weak and considered a feminine trait. And so, you try to find your self-worth and trying to find people that can relate. And, when you can't find people that can relate, you fall into that dark hole of like, maybe I don't find self-worth. maybe I don't see myself existing in this world because, you know, I can't find that tribe that relate to me.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for being here because this becomes a part of that tribe, right? That we get to talk. How many single fathers do we have in this group right now? Okay, I see a couple of hands go up. I know Andrew had talked about, right. So I raised my boys by myself. I know that situation. And so one of the reasons I reach out to brothers and say, hey, get connected is because we definitely need to find our tribe, right? We live in a culture where we're constantly told that, you know, in our culture, when I say culture, I'm not just talking about the general American culture, I'm talking about the Black culture. It is not normal in the Black culture for men to raise their children without women being present. But we've normalized women raising their children without men being present. How crazy is that? Think about that, right? Why is it what's good for the goose is good for the gander? Not in this situation. And so I get in trouble a whole lot because I just tell truth. Like the current situation that we're in this country with our brothers running the streets and all the issues come from single parenting. And so we have to say, sisters, it's not working. This is not working. You got to change this. We get to change that. And so one of the things we work on is that. And in that, this lone wolf mentality that is uniquely American, by the way. I've lived on other continents. This is not something that you see all over the world. This lone wolf mentality is going to kill us and is killing us because we think, yeah, I got to do this by myself. So as I got on the call some years ago, I was doing a rites of passage program with some young brothers in the high school that Derek was an assistant principal in. And in this school, these were the kids who had basically kicked out of every school, every program in New York, and they could, this was their last hope. They couldn't go anywhere. And Derek was the AP there. And then the brother who was a principal, the little brother was a principal. You know, some of y'all know Derek's an alpha. The principal was a Q. And so I came in and did this work, and a fight broke out. One of the boys in my circle decided he said he raised his hand and said, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And he went to the bathroom. Him and another boy, they went to the bathroom, started fighting in the bathroom. So security is running everything. They're trying to break them up and everything like that. I go running. I'm in there now. Y'all can't tell from the screen, but I'm 5'5". Okay. On a good day, I could weigh 160 pounds back then. That ain't the case now, but we ain't gonna talk about that. But back then, a good day, I weighed like $160, okay? And so I get in the middle and I say, enough. And they stop. So now everybody's looking, like, how did you do that? I mean, they got security guards trying to pull these brothers off each other and everything. I stood there, I said, enough. And they stopped. I said, you over there, you over there. And so they separate the boys and stuff like that. And we walk in the office. And one of the things that happened was revelatory to both Derek and the principal. Because in that school, because the kids were so old, they could call all the teachers and the staff by their first name. Now, I'm old school. You ain't calling me by my first name. You haven't earned the right to call me by my first name. So since we're sitting in the circle, I was the elder. So they called me elder. And so one of the boys said, elder, it had to happen that way. He disrespected me this morning. And I said, I hear you on that, but I want you to think about what the effects of that's going to be on your grandmother. Now, this was something that, you know, I saw the staff kind of sitting there figuring out what's just going on here, right? And so the next day, they pulled me into the office. The next week when I came to school, they pulled me in the office and said, hold up, how did that happen? I mean, you just stopped it like that. And I said, oh, because I'm the elder. They said, well, we elders too. I said, nah, you Derek and you so-and-so. They haven't created that. But here we've created that to the point where they asked permission to leave the circle, not to disrespect the circle, and went into the bathroom. Because we were building community. We were building our tribe. And when we do that, they get to understand you have a sense of belonging. And so what Ishmael was saying was, a lot of these brothers are losing their lives because they don't feel like they belong. In fact, I was recently trying to find the article that they were talking about close to 80% of those who are succumbing to suicide in these times are actually in therapy. They're at this time, they are actually in therapy. Brother Paul?
Yeah, Paul.
Hi, everybody. So first I want to say, before I even say my piece, I want to thank my mom, because she is just like, I didn't realize how wise she was as a kid. And then as I got older, I'm like, damn, she was a rocket scientist. Like she just had it. And I say that to say, I was in this position when I was younger where I'm trying to take my own life. And everything you said like really hit home. The pressures being picked on and all those things. And I was unsuccessful. But later, as an adult, I go back and go, how the hell did I know? Or how the hell did I think? Come to the conclusion that was the answer to the problem, right? I didn't think baking. I didn't think building Legos. I didn't think getting a hobby. For some reason, my conclusion at some point was, in order to solve this problem, being picked on, whatever, this is the answer. Fast forward, my mother made me go on this trip. It was a camping program that we had at our school. And part of the trip was, and this is, by the way, this is like years later. So I tried to do this when I was in elementary. Fast forward to high school, 9th grade, we go on this camping trip. And part of the camping trip, there's something called a solo. So they take you out into the woods and they leave you by yourself. It's just you. They give you a tarp. And prior to that, they teach you how to set up your tarp and all the whole thing. You got your sleeping bag and everything. And the solo can be anywhere from 24 to 72 hours completely in the woods by yourself. And it was the greatest experience of my life. Because in that moment, so much clarity came to things that I wish I had when I was younger. And the biggest part of the biggest moment of clarity for me was I attach who I am based on the people around me. So I'm only funny if somebody laughs at my joke. If nobody laughs, am I funny? And I remember writing that in my diary very vividly, because we had a journal that we had to keep. And I say that to say, now growing up and as an educator, I see my young kids going through the same things I went through, where they're being picked on, where they're trying to figure out who they are, the whole schmeal. And I'm constantly having conversations with them about focusing on the people that love them. Because one thing I find with my students that I had an issue with when I was younger, which I now go, how the hell is this an issue? We focus on the negative so much. Your mother tells you she loves you. Your father gives you a hug, tells you he's proud of you. Your father buys you sneakers, pays your cell phone bill, gets you all the stuff for Christmas, takes you all around the world. One kid at school calls you fat, and all of a sudden you forget all those positive things and you attach to that negative. Your day as a kid, I watched so many kids' days are ruined because they came in excited and happy. Somebody said some kid who doesn't even know them said something negative, and now they're harping on this kid who said something negative.
You know why that happens? So part of it is because our sense of belonging. William, I see you. I'm gonna call you in a moment, bro. Don't forget what you want to say. Our sense of belonging has to do with when we talk. And I'm going to use the word tribe because we started with that. Okay. But our tribe is in general, it starts with our peer group. Parents are not in the peer group. Auntie and uncle, grandma, they're not in the peer group. So the people that I need acceptance from, and I'll say acceptance because we are social beings by nature. And so as social beings, we need to be accepted by somebody who's like us. Right? We think about it from time to say, if I think about it, I say, well, when was the first time you had a Black teacher? Someone who looked like you, right? That becomes really important for us in our development. You being a male educator, how many times a student grows up and can remember the first time they had a Black male educator? someone who looked like them. Well, that's true in any family situation. The 6-year-olds are looking for other people in their age group for acceptance because that's their tribe. And that's where it becomes important for them to have that level of acceptance. A skill set that becomes stronger in them is that those who don't accept you are not your tribe, but you will fit in with someone, right? Because they still need someone in their peer group to give them validation because they're young. Parents get to shape what that validation looks like so that they have a filter and say, okay, if they're going to talk about this, this, and this, then they don't qualify to validate me. The only ones who qualify to validate me has this value system that my parents have given me. And that becomes more of an acceptance to help them get there. Or you'll always run into kids who are trying to please people so that they can get the validation. Does that make sense? Right. I don't want to cut you off. I know William has his hand up. Was there something else you wanted to add to that? Wonderful. William? Are you muted? Did we lose him?
I look like he disappeared.
They disappeared. But Paul, did you want to add something? Because I know you wanted to kind of not kind
No,
of.
no, I think that I'm glad you put a word for it. That tribe is so important because I later found my tribe, but then I also kind of found this part where I was cool with being who I was, and part of that tribe or that niche was I came to a point where if you're cool with me, that's fine. And if you're not, that's also fine. And I was always able to draw back onto that part where if nobody else is around, because I've had the experience, if it's just me, I'm gonna be okay. And so, but that the last thing I want to say is what you're saying is so important because one thing school does not do, school as teachers in the school system, we do not help kids find their tribe or and we don't help them get to know each other to find out if they are even close to their tribe or whatever. And we have to do a much better job of that.
And you have that lens for that now, right? So that becomes really powerful. I want to present something. When you started the conversation, you identified your tribe. Who do you call yourself to be a tribe of? Yes.
I don't know.
You said, I am an educator. You started with that, right? And so that's who you identify with. That becomes important because so the strength of that is where you belong. The danger in that is if anything happens and you're not an educator anymore and you lose that connection, where do you go? So it's important to have a sense of self-worth and value beyond what we do. And this is something that brothers struggle with because many of us have our identity rooted in what we do. I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm an educator, I'm a fireman, not who we are. I'm a father, I'm a husband. You understand the difference, right? I'm a brother, I'm an uncle. That's who I am. That's my way of being. And so we get to shift our focus away from what we do to who we be. Does that work? Okay, wonderful. Then William, you're back in here.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, technical difficulties over here.
Understood.
That video you played really hit home for me, especially with everything that we're talking about, because for me, it was the very last thing he said. Can you guys still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for me, it was the very last thing he said that really struck home. He said, I'm sorry, my daughter is distracting me for a little bit. He said, I didn't know I could go to you. And that summed it up for me right then and there. For the simple fact is that when my older siblings, my older sister is 6 years apart from me. My older brother is 12 years apart, 6 years apart from her. So when I was born, by the time I was about 4 or 5 years old, my brother was already getting kicked out the house because he was in those streets. You know, his father died, God rest his soul. There was a situation with that, and my mother felt like she couldn't be a single parent enough to give my brother the attention that he needed. So she sent him away. She sent him to go live with his uncles, a more stable family rather than a single parent household. Which by the time I'm turned 12, my older sister already left. So I had to grow up real quick, real fast. My mother was a single parent raising 3 kids. She really didn't have any help. And it did give me a sense of, for a while, that I was lost and I didn't have anyone to go to. I didn't have a tribe of my own to connect with. I'm a Hispanic African American male, growing up in the middle of New York City. It's either, the way I was growing up, it's either you black or you Hispanic, which you gotta choose one. It wasn't until later years where cultures started mixing and stuff like that people started being a little bit more accepting towards the minority groups and being like, you are my brother. So up until, I want to say, around 8 years old, I was really lost and confused about who I was. I have a last name Jimenez, but I'm living in a Stewart house, and 2 different personalities clash. I go to my dad's house. They speak in straight Spanish. My grandfather is from Ecuador. Came to New York. He came to New York. My grandmother's from Dominican Republic. She came to New York. They met. That's how that worked. My mother's from Kentucky. So everybody came to New York. That's a real big melting pot for me. For the most part, it comes full circle. Is that what I had to realize was I did have family. My family wasn't around. My family wasn't 5 minutes down the block, even though it was New York City, but they were still around. And it took me until, like, I graduated high school for real, and I went off to Penn State by myself to realize that I had people in my corner that I can talk to, but those people weren't being vocalized. And I'm not talking about women, because I was mostly raised by women. There was really not any male figures in my life, but the male figures that were in my life, they didn't really speak up as much as, like, I like to speak up. I like to ask for help because I've grown up for so long trying to be that person by myself, trying to be that lone wolf, being that full circle. It is an American mentality. But at the end of the day, what people fail to realize, especially Americans, you can't do it by yourself. You're not going to be able to live. You're not meant, we as human beings are not meant to live alone. We're meant to love and give and feel. And as males, us not asking for help, it becomes very difficult to be emotionally regulated. When we do feel, we only technically turn it into anger or aggression in order to survive and get through what we need to get through. But at the end of the day, too much aggression and too much anger leads to down spirals and negativity and self-destruction. And
let me just interject real quick. I want to just
a
couple things, because you mentioned some things that I really want to take some time to kind of talk about. One is, you use the word minority. That word irks me on ways I can't even begin to express. We don't have enough time for that, because the concept of a minority is one who is less than. And we are not less than. It doesn't even mean numerically anymore, because quite frankly, numerically, we are not in the minority, right? So a person can be in a minority, but you can't be a minority. And so the system has taught us that we are minorities, which means we're less than. So I really want to always, when I hear someone say it, have the conversation and say, you are not less than. Because that's part of the mentality that we can internalize that really helps us to not stand up and show up the way we need to show up. When we talk about this lone wolf syndrome, it really is perpetuated because fathers are not making the relationship connection with their sons. How many of you have sons? Hands up. So there are two natural elements in a male's life when he's born that fathers need to deal with. One is sex, and the other is violence. Those two natural tendencies, boys are naturally, the tendency is innate, right? I want you to think about you growing up, thinking about all that, right? We wanted to play fight because it was in us, right? That violent nature was there, just build things, break things down, rah, that kind of thing, right? And so that violence gets to be changed. And I don't have time to go into a lot of it, but that violence is an energy. Energy neither dies or dissipates, it can only change. So a father's job is to change that violence, that violent nature, into the creative nature, because men we are creative by nature, right? We want to create and build. They built the Lego set, but then they knocked it down and they kicked it, right? So how do we keep building and turn that? And that's a father's role, to get them to build and turn that energy of violence into creativity. The other is
Emotional regulation. Yeah.
Emotional regulation is definitely a big part of that. But that also has to do with the sex side, right? Because if we can learn to control our passions, then that helps us to make better decisions, right? We talk about, post-nut clarity. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Everybody knows that, right? The post-nut clarity is like, now I thought about saying, I shouldn't have been with her. But you didn't think about that beforehand, right? So a father's job is to help you develop the clarity before you get in the situation. Right? That's our job. And so when we do that, what we are teaching that child, that boy, is that your success in life is to be connected to others. Namely, me at first, but I already have my connections. So you start seeing that in a community of men, we can succeed and thrive. So then we don't end up with lone wolves. Whenever we see lone wolves and people who are out there by themselves, we know that the relationship that they needed to have with their father was not in place. Because it's a man who's going to teach a boy how to be a man, how to show up as a man, how to walk and talk as a man, how to conduct himself as a man.
Absolutely.
Right?
I believe in that wholeheartedly.
That's our role. So whenever we have individuals who are in this solitude, we run into that issue, we start thinking about that. And so I wanted to presence that, because what that says is we have to build community. And so although the mental health professionals are saying we need to make sure we get Black men into therapy, and I'm not against therapy. I am a clinician. I work with families. That's what I do. But I also understand that it's not sitting down at a table with someone who's going to help you get in deep touch with your deeper self that's going to help the situation that we have, this epidemic that we have of Black male suicide. What it is situations like this where we feel open to be able to have conversations without judgment. Right? Where we can say, I know I've been married, but I really want to be with this other woman because my wife, it ain't working. And walk away from it not feeling like we've been judged or less than. We need to be able to have conversations like, I don't even know what to do with these kids. I have no idea. I'm at a loss. What do I tell them? Right? And not feel like that. Or I don't know how to handle my finances. Who do we go to about our financial situation? That's why I love the network, because, Uncle Mike getting people coming here. Hey, we're going to talk about financial management this week. We're going to get this week, right? To help us learn the things that we didn't learn growing up in our own communities. And so we have this virtual community. But I want to make sure that I present this piece real quickly, that each of us, and when William was talking about this, he said, a lot of times we don't know who we can turn to. And I know when that brother was talking in the poem, he said this. He said, his friend said, I didn't know I could come to you. So I ask you this question, and this is something you get to figure out. Who can you go to when you're feeling like you need to be vulnerable? I hated the word vulnerability. I still hate vulnerability. It's just not my thing. When I was doing my training for, I'm actually getting my second certification in coaching. I'll be graduating in a couple of months. But my first one is in transformational coaching. My second one is ontological coaching. They're two different forms. I don't have time to talk about it right now. But when the first one they say, you have to be vulnerable. I'm not telling you my business, man. I don't know you. And then they talk about trust, right? Trust. We don't do trust. Trust is not like, it's not even built in my family like line. We don't trust nobody. I'm a New Yorker, huh? We don't do that. That's trust means I'm weak. Trust means you won't turn against me. Trust means that, but that's not how we can survive. Trust is a choice. And I was in a room full of white people. And I'm like, yo, I don't even like white people. Right? I was very clear about that. I don't even like white people. And I was like, well, trust is a choice. And we did this exercise where we had to go around and look at a person and say, I trust you, I don't trust you, right? And they said, do you have a pattern? I said, yes. They said, what's your pattern? I said, I don't trust white people. I was just very clear. I know.
I'm glad you said,
but that's just how I roll. You know what I'm saying?
I really think it's a culture issue because as black males, as black people, we will take from each other instead of helping. And I think I said this 1 week, like a couple weeks ago. We much rather steal from each other rather than help build each other up. Kind of like, excuse my language, but maybe Indians or Mexicans or something like that, which feed into their own community.
Well,
just because you're doing well for yourself doesn't mean I gotta hate on you. I could do well. We both can do well together, individually and together. And that crab in the barrel mentality is really stuck in our culture, I feel like.
I want to give us some space on that one because immigrant groups are different. They've come here from another space, right? And so, quite frankly, immigrants are always the cream of the crop. They're the ones who made it out of wherever they came from to get here. And they have to work together because when they got here, they had nobody else. That's not been our situation. And actually, it was our situation during the Great Migration. If you study that out, when blacks started leaving and coming up north, we were very connected that way. But that got broken up, right? That was dissipated. Ty, you raise your hand?
You hit it, Unc, no worries.
Okay. All right. So I want to talk about that because William really brought up a really good point. How we doing with time, my brothers?
No, you're good. I think Fifi had a question. He had his hand up. Fifi, you
all
want
right, Fifi?
Even though you're on lunch break still?
So yeah, I just wanted to chime in real quick because my break is over. And before I leave, just wanted to just let my uncle know that I love him so dearly because not about a month and a half ago was the first time that, because he knows that I'm vulnerable with him, and that was the first time that I actually opened up to like any male figure to like let them know that I felt like a failure in terms of like my life. And that video really hit home because I'm a few years away from the age of 40, and I basically have lost just about everything that I worked so hard for. And yeah, like I opened up to him, told him how I felt. But he encouraged me not too long ago. I just had 2 recent interviews with the state. Both of them came back, but I didn't get neither one, even though I was recommended for the positions. So it's like the old me would have felt once again like a failure. And just like the clip mentioned, back during the pandemic, and once my seizure started, I really thought about giving up. I really thought about, what's the point of continuing? Everything I liked so much, and my uncle knows I was an athlete. I had dreams and aspirations of doing a lot more that got taken away, and the woman I wanted to marry got taken away, and this got taken away, that got taken away. So it was like, what's the point? What's the point of even continuing? And those thoughts just kept coming back. Like, who's gonna care once you're going? However, he continually checked in on me from time to time, and the whole thing about having a brotherhood is very, very important because, like, the other brothers I have, we don't really check in with each other emotionally. We don't really just like the video said, we suppress those feelings. We don't talk to each other about that. It's all about what you've done, how far you've came. And if you can't chime in on that aspect, it's like you feel less than. It's like, why am I even here? So just wanted to share that with you guys before I head back to the grindhouse. So and I look forward to being part of the group. And
Hey, yo,
man,
Fifi, before
this
you
was dope.
leave, man, if that's your uncle, that make you my cousin.
Oh, for sure.
Real talk. If you
We
his family,
family.
that means you my family now.
So we
I put my
family.
number in the chat.
I
I'm
got
the
you.
first nephew. I'm older than all of y'all.
Word, my man.
His brother's my father. That's my real uncle. So if you coming into my family,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
your cousin now,
Yes,
and I'm
sir.
gonna come to you.
Yes, sir.
My number's in the chat.
Okay.
Call me if he Uncle D. If he don't call me, you know what, I'm gonna fly up there and I'm gonna come see him. I'm only 2-hour flight away, man.
Okay.
But real talk, I'm coming back up there probably the end of the summer. We're gonna connect. Take my number
Absolutely.
out the chat. Good
I
to
got
meet
you.
Cuz.
We'll do it, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, man.
Fifi, before you leave, though, I want to say, Fifi, before you leave, go back to work.
Yes,
Listen,
sir.
good to have you here. I'm Puma from Brooklyn. Listen, I love what you just said. I've been there. I want to give you this perspective. When I got 40 years old, I was freaking stressed out. Felt like a failure. Like, oh, I had so many dreams at 13, 20, 30. By the time I get 20, by the time I get 30, by the time I get 35, I felt like I was freaking 100 years old when I turned 40. But what I did was I started hanging around older men that was 55. 40 is freaking a joke to them. You know what I'm saying? They're like, Puma, you got a lot to learn. You still a baby. I'm like,
what?
you talking about? Right? Right? So keep that in mind. And also this, I know you got to go, perspective-wise. Say, what's the average age? 80 years old? 77, 80? So let's say 80 for round number. Say 80. I teach people this. You're guaranteed to have 10 bad years out of 80.
Okay.
Right? You don't have 10 bad years out of 80, right? Look at that big picture. Out of 80, 10 is nothing out of 80, right?
Correct.
Watch this too now. Also, those 10 bad years will not be consecutive 10 years.
Right.
You have a bad year, 10 good years. 2 bad years, 10. So, you know what I'm saying? Keep that in mind. 10 years you're going to have. So expect to have 10 bad years. So when they come, you're like, oh, me. What we saying? Oh, me. He said, okay, it's one of my 10 bad years. That makes sense?
Absolutely.
I tell you, that helped me. I'm 59 now, brother. I'll be 60 next year. I'm
man,
still excited.
Black don't crack, man.
You know what I'm saying? At 40, you're a baby. You're a baby, son. You're a baby, son. Your first nephew, your first cousin will get you. All right? We got you, baby.
For sure. For
all
sure.
Right?
Appreciate it, fellas.
Keep that in mind, though. 80 years is nothing.
Thanks for being here.
10 bad years is nothing.
We
All right.
appreciate you for jumping on.
Will, you got your hand up?
Will, he has his hand up. Will, you want to go, brother?
Yes, sir. You guys can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much for this space. We're approaching Father's Day weekend. Are there any strategies, any tools that you can give brothers like me who may have lost a father and have not had, I would say the closure before the father passed away? Number one. Number two, dealing with a divorce in which my son now we don't have a relationship. So this Father's Day weekend is kind of like, you know, they normally say like during our holidays like Christmas, you know, Thanksgiving, these are holidays people go through so much grief because the loved one is not there. So are there any strategy, any tools you can give brothers who, you know, either father is not there or they're dealing with a situation with their son that they're not either on speaking terms or there's things that's going on?
Thank you for presence in that and for sharing
Brother,
that. That's real.
Can I cut in real quick?
Right.
I could address the father thing. My parents have been going 34 years. And once I was going through some changes, I made this decision to get therapy. But the thing is, you have to find a therapist that fit. Like I seeked out a Black therapist, and I happened to find like a father figure, who was a therapist. So I would leave Rikers Island and go straight to the Bronx. And after a while, it started feeling good. Also, you have to my brother Will, and this is as far as a parent is concerned, you have to find, again, like I said, you have to find that perfect fit therapist. And you'll know when you find that person. And I think it should be particularly a man. No, not think. It should be a man. Because look, nobody experiences what Black men experience in America. Not even Black men from other countries, when they come here, experience this thing that we experience here. So another thing, Brother Will, you wanna try to find hopefully another brother who has your same experience. I'm saying as far as loss of parent. It's funny that you should say that because Jerome is not here. A friend of mine, some of your brothers know Jerome Taylor. He knew that I went through the experience, and I believe I helped him when his father died. His father must be going now maybe 15 years. So you want to find somebody, brother, that that went through it, and came out on the other side fairly good. And I believe it would help you. Also, you want to think about the good times. If you can think about the good times, bro, it'll help you out. Now, I was thinking about what my brother Donald said about matter, how it never goes anywhere. See, my parents are always with me. My mother and father are always with me, even though they've been gone, like I said, 34 years. And I feel old when I heard that young brother said he was, how old was he? Almost 40. I turned 64 a couple of weeks ago. So like I said, bro, if you find those people, man, that you need, in fact, that's why I missed one of the dad's group, because it was on a Thursday, my birthday. But brother, if you can find that perfect fit therapist, and also find people who experience the same thing you have, because hey, look, father is important, father is very important. I was lucky enough to have a stepfather. He's gone now also. But I'm going to turn my mic off.
Will, can I ask you a few questions? Because what I heard was that you were trying to figure out some strategies for this weekend. Is that correct?
Yeah, because again, my father, and I don't want to take too much time, but my father was not in the home when I was younger. He was drafted to Vietnam. Once he came back from Vietnam, he was on drugs. My mother and him, went out on the speaking terms. Make a long story short, he was trying to find me when I was very, very young. He wanted to talk to me, but because of information, me being 8, 9, 10 years old, being raised by a single mother, I had so much hatred, for him. And when he passed away when I was 14, I just had so much, hurtness. And then as I got older, still pain, because it's like, he wanted to talk to me, but I wasn't at a space because I was so young. I didn't know, I didn't want to even give him a chance to tell his child a story. Now I'm dealing with my oldest son, who was 23, and based on me and his mother had a divorce, and he doesn't want to talk to me. So I feel like history.
And it does. Yeah. I see it all the time. So where are you located?
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
You're in Dallas, Texas. Okay. I need to have a very lengthy conversation with you, if you're open to that, and we can walk through this process, because a part of it is there has to be, you have to have some reconciliation with your dad. I know he's gone, but we can do that. We can walk you through that process, because until that's settled, you can't settle the situation with your son, right? Because it is intergenerational, right? So I will make sure my number's in the chat, and then we can reach out and figure out how to do that. But in terms of this weekend, which is what you asked about, my invitation is for you not to meld in that, right? Is because what happens is a thought will come in your mind. You got 30 seconds to figure out what you're going to do with it. You can meditate on that thought and it'll grow, or you can dismiss it. And so you get to figure out, because you know you, what you can do to keep those thoughts from overwhelming you, right? So me and my dad had a bad relationship. I miss my dad. I'm hurt by my dad. Okay, I'm not doing this right now. I can't do this right now. I've got to do something else because I got to keep it moving. The same thing happens with your son, right? So some years ago, my godson called me and he said, "Pop, what does a man do on Father's Day who's never been there for his children?" I said, "I don't know, because I've never been there. But I'm going to tell you this too. You've never been there. You will never be there." He just had a baby 2 months ago. And I called him yesterday and said, "Your daughter will never know what it's like to not have her father present, because we broke that, right?" But I had to take him through the process of forgiving his father. And that's where it is, that part of forgiveness. You have to forgive yourself and forgive him. And that's a process. It's not going to happen overnight, but it can happen. It does happen. And once you free from that, because there's some guilt I'm hearing in your voice, there's some resentment. And how old are you now?
I'm 46.
Okay, so 46?
Yes, sir.
46? All right.
Yes,
so
sir.
we're talking about 32 years. You've been carrying this because your dad passed when he was 14 years old, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So 32 years, it's going to take us some time to unwork that. And this is not psychotherapy. This is not structural family therapy. This is really a process that we do with men to help men get from point A to point B in their life and learn to let some stuff go so they can focus. Like we talked about, energy doesn't change. I mean, energy doesn't dissipate. It goes somewhere. So how do we take that negative that you have in your mind and switch it so that it's something more stronger for you to be able to thrive with? And when you thrive, there's an energy that you'll put forth that'll be an attraction to your son. And we can talk about that. Okay? So I'll put that number for you and we can talk.
I want to say I want to give my apologies to Brother Well also, because I thought his father recently passed. You know, I misunderstood that. You were a very young man when your father passed. A lot of times, you know, this is what happens in our society, that our society wants us to hate our parents. I worked on Rikers for 32 years with Brother Doug and Brother Puma. And like when we would have these family days, you would rarely see a father show up, rarely. So I think, like I said, society has made us, I'm not going to use hate, I'll say dislike our parents, our male parents. You know,
our fathers, we can say that. Yeah, father. There's definitely an attack on fathers. Right?
Yes, definitely an attack on the fathers. And like I said, I want to apologize again, bro, because I misunderstood. I thought, you know, your father recently left us, you know. So I'm gonna turn my mic off again.
All right. I know Paul had his hand up, and then Andrew.
Go for it, Paul. Paul, your mic is hot. Go for it.
Okay, there we go. No, I wanted to say, to my brother who just spoke, I went through the same thing when my dad wasn't there, with the exception of my mother never, ever said anything about that to me, ever. And she made it a point, never. She wanted me to have my own relationship with him. And I'll tell you this, that forgiveness piece is super important. Because you, as you said already, you walk around with that weight on your shoulders, and that energy has to go somewhere. And I would say one thing for me as I got older, that I really took out from it was, that really helped me in that space, was coming to the realization that we all make choices, right? And for me, as I got older, now that I have a family, I realized, for the most part, most people don't get into relationships thinking, hey, I want to have a child with this person, and then in 2 years, I'm leaving them. Like, I firmly believe that's not most people's mindset. and then really coming to just kind of terms with the fact that life doesn't always go the way we plan. And now that I have kids, like today, right now, normally I'll be in my house, you know, in front of the computer talking with everybody. I told my daughter I was going to take her to the pool. She is helped. She told me this morning, you said we're going to the pool. You said we're going to the pool. And I'm like, you know what? I can clip this. I can be on Zoom. I left the house and now we're at the pool. And I say that just to say again, life doesn't always go the way we plan. As you're healing and you're going through the process. One thing I would definitely say is to keep that in mind, because that definitely helped me get through, and now, you know, get through with my father. Now that I'm a father, I'm just realizing that.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Andrew, you have your hands up. Go for it, brother. The mic is hot. Andrew?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mute. Just here, I'm just thankful to be here with you brothers. You know, I hear you guys share some of your stories. I could relate to some of the stories. You know, I grew up without a father. You know, I'm the youngest of three. You know, my mom was married and I go downstairs, baby. Mom was married and had my brother and my sister, my older brother and sister, and she went through a divorce. But you know, they do like a little flame, like the accident. My brother, much older brothers, like 15 years. So I kind of grew up with my father, and because of my mom and my dad's relationship, me and my dad didn't have the best at all. It took 34 years for me to kind of reunite with, talk, and out. We have a great relationship, but it took 34 years. But before that, I met Elder Don. He's like a father to me. Came right in life. He came. My mom just passed. I was like headed. There was money with my siblings. So Donald was there. He was just there for encouragement. I had nobody. I was in Rockland County by myself, like, you know, and I felt like I had nobody to go to, and I was talking to a stranger, and he was there at the darkest time of my life. He just helped encourage me, and once I started going through a divorce, you know, when I talk to my family over the phone, they'll say, "You think you could do it?" Like, you know, like try to discourage me, like, you know, "You think you can handle it? You know, mommy's gone, and you know, if you're going through a divorce, you can't. I don't think you could do it." You know, and you know, I talked to Donald, he encouraged me, and you know, I had my son his whole life. He's about to turn 7 next month, but you know, I had him by myself since he was 1. You know, and I had married his mom. You know, she was just a friend, but it was like I kind of was following the same pattern as my mother and father. So that's why I married her, because I was like, I already see the pattern. And I could say a lot more, but I just want to show you that it's like very important, you know, to have a community, have a tribe around you, because I was like in a very dark spot, and you just, you know, you don't know. It's just so powerful. Like when somebody their ear, just the mental. So that's what I want to say. I could say more, but I just want to keep it brief. Just so you could get a little snippet of who I am.
No, Andrew, I appreciate you open up, because that's one of the most important things is that with this group is that we created this platform for brothers like you to just open up, because there's no spaces out there where you can open up and not feel like you're going to be judged.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brothers in this community that's going through the same thing you're going through, and can give you information and vice versa. And the one thing I want to add to it is that you are not your relationship. You are not your relationship of your father and your mother.
Yeah.
Often what happens is that we take on that emotional baggage of a failed relationship between our mother and father. And often what we do, we take sides on one person or the other person. And we have to realize is that what they did, that does not define us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But Donald, the floor is yours, brother. You're the guest speaker to you. The floor is yours, King.
So I want to take the last few minutes, because it's already 25 after, to really talk about the call of action and what we get to do. And we already talked about building community, and how that looks, right? So I'm giving everybody a homework assignment. I'm telling you right now, you're going to walk out of here with stuff to do, because we need to check in. And so I talk about the checkup from the neck up, right? This, how you doing up here, bro? But how does that happen? We get to create a safe space for brothers. Now, how does a safe space means I don't always have the answer. And that's hard for us, because as men, we want to solve problems. We want to fix it, right? So this is the recommendation. When you create a safe space for someone, don't think you need to give them a solution. Because 100% of the time, their situation is going to be unique to them. And even though there might be some things that are similar, it's going to be different. So what really doesn't work in creating a safe space is when you talk about what you did in the situation. You can talk about your experience, but don't try to tell a brother to do what you did. Because we all know, as soon as a brother tells us to do what we did, we shut that down. It doesn't work with men. We don't do that well, right? Because we have to solve our problems ourselves. And so part of this process of creating a safe space is being an ear to hear and let people express themselves and their situations. And then ask powerful questions. Ask them, what do you want? How do you think you're going to get there? What do you need? How do I support you in this? Those are the questions, because we don't go to people with our problems because we want them to solve them. It's hard enough for us to turn to somebody in the first place. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Can you identify with that? All right. And I know it would try to be helpful, but in my experience, when people come to someone and they start talking about, oh, do this, do this, do this, do this, immediately the man in me shuts it down. Don't tell me what to do. You ain't, you know what we say in our mind? And we may never even met him. You ain't my father, right? I may never met my father, don't like my father, but in our mind, we start thinking, you're not my father. And so how do we help brothers get out of the situation that they're in? We ask them questions so that they can come up with the answers to their problems. So what we're saying is, you're strong enough, King, to figure this out. I'm here with you, to work with you and to walk with you and to help you navigate between this and this. Because I don't know all the nuances of your problem. I don't know what the situation is. I ain't never lived with that crazy woman. I don't know what it's like to have a kid that's against me. I don't know what it's like, you know what I'm saying? And some of the stuff, see, what happens is when you open up that space for brothers to feel safe, they will talk to you about what's going on. I had lunch today with a brother who has a sex addiction, right? Most brothers will not talk about sexual addictions. because they don't even want to, like, that whole thing, like, we laugh about it, right? Yo, you got to say, hey, sex is, that's just what we do, right? No, 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 no. It's ruining his life, his marriage, his, because with the sex addiction comes a porn addiction. With the porn addiction comes a masturbation addiction. All these addictions, right? And so we laugh about that kind of stuff. But in reality, he's struggling and he's suffering. So all I could do was ask questions. And it's not like I'm being nosy, but okay, so what do you think this can do? What do you think your next steps are? Big question. Everyone write this down. How do I support you? Let them tell you where the support's going to come in. Not you. Yo, I'm going to call you every day and check in on you. They may not want that or need that. What they may need is for you to just, yo, come over Thursday and just sit with me, right? Al's not on here. He was here earlier. I was talking about this last week. I had oh, there he is. Hey, Al. I don't remember what the crisis was, but there was a crisis in my life, and he was actually in New York. And he came over, he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go to Friendly's and have ice cream. And we went to Friendly's, and I got a royal banana split. Do you remember that? Right? We got a royal banana split. And we sat there, and I ate that ice cream. And he sat across from me, and he ate his ice cream. And that's what I needed at that moment. I just needed that. I needed to go away and let that happen. So let brothers, you're brilliant. You have the solutions to your problems. You just need someone to be with you and present to know that you ain't in this by yourself. You're not the only one that's been through it. And you can make it, bro. You're strong enough, and I'm not going to let you go. I got you. That's what we need to hear. That's what we need to be present for. William?
Yes, I wanted to say that the first step is joining this group. Now everybody needs to ask themselves, what is the next step? I joined the group. I became vulnerable with people that will not judge me. What is the next step? How do I progress? And the progression comes with discipline and consistency. I know from experience that me personally, I didn't have anybody to be vulnerable with. Like I said, I was around a lot of females. I was raised by a lot of females. The second a male is vulnerable with a female, it turns them off. It could be sexually, it could be mentally, it could be physically, whatever you want to think about, they shut down. Because for a long time, that's not how our society was built. Men aren't allowed to have certain feelings. They're not allowed to say certain things. They're not allowed to have emotion other than the 5 basic food groups. Now that times are changing, things are really getting, more focused on women rights. That was only how long ago? 45 years ago, 50 years ago? Segregation was only, 60 years ago? We still got people suffering from these traumatizations. We still have people brainwashed from what they believe is normal because they survived it. They lived it. I lasted this long, nothing happened to me, and this is the way I feel, this is the way I think, whereas society is changing. You can't have the same mentality that we did in the 90s. It's 2024. That's part of the reason why I have a whole upset with judges being appointed life terms and stuff, but that's a whole nother subject. I
appreciate it. I want to just presence. It's 8:30, and I know some brothers are going to do some things. I want to really, because this is really about how do we overcome this epidemic of suicide, and we've all talked about that. It means to be present for one another. I want to give you a quick story, and then I'll hand it back to Brother Ishmael. My nephew Tyrone talked about, he introduced us as my nephew. He is my oldest brother's son. He's my first nephew. And when my brother transitioned, it shocked all of us because none of us were expecting that. I was actually teaching a parenting class when I got the phone call. And he was at Mount Sinai Hospital the day before. I just brought him a whole sandwich. And he's like, yo, bring me something to eat, bro. I was like, all right, my big brother brought him a sandwich and everything. So when he passed, it blew us away. and we were at the funeral, and so as they, we did the ceremony and everything, and my family we are public figures, so we're somewhat stoic about certain things. We don't express emotions terribly in public places and things of that sort. That's just us. We are very, very emotional, physical, loving, nurturing family. We just don't put our business on the street, right? And so I'm walking back to the car, and the emotions are overcoming me because now I'm walking away from my brother who's being lowered into the ground. And my sons saw that, and they pushed me in the car and stood around the window so no one could see me cry. Because we are a community, a family. And that kind of work is, we get to be intentional about it so that our sons never grow up in the areas that we were deficient. They knew daddy's going to cry and we can't let him fall apart in front of the public, right? Now we can fall apart in front of one another. We can be vulnerable with one another, but we're not going to do that publicly with everyone. And so the question again is, with whom can you be vulnerable? One of my son's best friends, he was going through something one time. He said, yo, why did you tell me? Bro, I've seen you naked. And I was like, what are you talking about? So we played on the same team. So, we played basketball together. I've seen him naked. So, like, if once I've seen you naked, you ain't got no secrets, But who can we be naked in front of? I'm not talking about physically, but I'm talking about emotionally. And you only need one or two people. It ain't got to be everybody. Everybody, you don't put your business out with everyone. But who can you be? And it takes a moment of stepping out and saying, hey, I don't know how to do this. I need this. I need that vulnerability. But when someone trusts you, and this is my last point, when someone begins to open up, you've got to show yourself as being trustworthy. You've got to protect their vulnerability when it's in your hand. And that becomes critical in building the relationship. I knew I could go get some ice cream with him because I knew whatever was going to happen, I would be safe. Who are you safe with, and who can be safe with you? Brother Ishmael?
Brother Donald, thank you for those gems. Like Uncle Mike always say, pearls. Thank you for the pearls. I appreciate that. For me personally, what I do, think it may not work for you, but it worked for me. I write a love note to myself. I write it down each and every day what I like about myself, and I read it to myself as a way of affirmation to get myself ready for the day. So you have to figure out what avenues, what worked for you to not put you into that mindset of taking your life, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out there that care about you. But when you're in that mindset of suicide thoughts, you're thinking that you're by yourself, you're a man on an island, but the reality you're not. And I think the one step to get off that island is share. And as the listener, the one thing I've learned is, as a listener, do not steal the conversation. We often, like Brother Somerville said, is that we often want to give someone the answer. Maybe they don't want the answer. Maybe they just want you to listen. Just collect their thoughts without saying anything back. But again, what Brother Somerville said, with questions, so you can kind of get a scope of where they're at mentally at that point. And so that's important. So this has been an amazing conversation. Before we end this, is there any brothers that have any final thoughts? The floor is yours. I'll open up to any brothers. Go for it if you have any final thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to say good night, and it was a great meeting. And just last week, I was going through something, and I reached out to one of the brothers right here on the platform, and he gave me a suggestion. So sometimes when they give suggestions, if you don't listen, it ain't gonna work. And while we was on the phone, I did what he told me to do, and my wife called me because I was going through something with her, and I was like, "Yo, I gotta get off the phone. I gotta get off the phone. She's calling me. She's calling me." So sometimes, people, you can ask for suggestions, you can ask for help, and if you have numbers, use them. Don't file them. Use them to your best ability. Use them because numbers do help, and everything is going great with me now. But at that moment, things were going pretty bad, and just reaching out to a brother here in this group, really, really helped me out. So I just wanted to drop that in there.
Thank you, Sam. And Sam is, I know he's a humble dude, but he's a famous author. And the little bird had talked to me that he's going to be traveling to promote his book. If you want to just chime in about that real fast before we end.
Yeah. Everybody was talking about the absence of their father and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I had the absence of my father and my mother, and they were alive. So that's even a more hurtful feeling, where you have your parents, but you're exiled from a church and you can't communicate with them. So I decided to put it in a book because I went through a lot, but I made it through. Platforms like this helped me make it through, drug programs, church, all the above. I told people when they read my book, I said, it's not a lady asked me if it was a church book. I said, no, it's a book showing that I made it through a really hard battle, and it wasn't just church. So my book is Turning Pages of My Life, and it's on Amazon, and it's just an inspirational book. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Puma, you're going to be the second to last, and then I'm going to let Donald take over because I want him to let people know where he can find them and what's going on with him next.
That was my question. I wanted to reach out to the brother because I have some questions for him that I don't want to take all the time up. I want to ask you, I'm not a big, deep thinker. You mentioned immigrants coming here. I want to expound on that with you because I think about that all the time. But I want to get some thoughts on it because I know when they come here, because they left everything, they ready to run. So I want to talk about that. But also, real fast, can you tell me, what are your thoughts on my 10 bad years theory for your whole life? What are your thoughts? Can you make a quick answer for that?
I think it can be the case. I think, again, everybody's different. Some people have 20, 30 bad years.
Right.
And how do we define bad, right? So the law of polarity says that for every negative thing, there's a positive thing. And if we look at it from that perspective, those 10 bad years, what are we pulling from? What's the positive that can come out of it? So there's a lot of perspective in that piece. I think also if we limit ourselves to 10 bad years or raise ourselves to 10 bad years, we're always going to expect something bad to happen if we only had 2 up until this point. So right? So what determines bad, I think, becomes a part of it. And we get to have that conversation.
Right? Talk about that. The reason I say 10 is it's not even a real number. I want them to accept a bad year and not think it's the end of the world. It's the end of their life.
And I would say from the perspective that what is bad? Because I can guarantee you, if you can define something as bad, I can find something good in it.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so that we can have that conversation, right?
We need to talk. Yeah.
We definitely do. So listen, I am in the feed. I'm a part of the network.
You can't leave yet. You cannot leave yet.
Wait, hold on.
I'm not gonna let you leave without me telling you how proud I am of you. I didn't know you was doing this till you sent the link.
Wow.
You make our name great. The Somerville name carries on because you are the patriarch of our family. And I am so proud to be your second in command. Keep doing this, man. You know what that means. You know what the shield is all about. Everybody, this is my uncle. If you see me, we look just alike. I'm just a foot and a half taller. I love you, man. Keep it up.
Good stuff.
Love you too, Ty. So y'all see I changed my background. That's the crown. That is the logo for my company, one of my companies, which is Imperial Coaching, where I coach Black men to help them take their lives to the next level. Also, I am in the feed. I'm a part of the network, so y'all can hit me up right in there. Every once in a while, you'll see me jump in there and post something and something like that. So I'm the Donald Somerville in there, which means if you're in that, if you're in this WhatsApp group, you got my number, right? So reach out, holla, and I also run something called the BMW, which is the Black Man's Work Group. We do workshops helping brothers really come to terms with some stuff, and then again taking their lives to the next level. So I'm gonna over the next couple of days be posting some things around that. Right now on Instagram, every day I'm posting something on fatherhood, and I'll be doing that for the next couple of weeks. Some gems on fatherhood, and to help people understand what our role as fathers, the impact, the importance of fathers, the impact of fathers. Some of those things I just put also in our group over on the network, which is cool, so we can see it there and everything. But if you get a chance, follow us on. If you are an entrepreneur, want to build your business, follow us at Black Man's Workshop on Instagram, or you can follow me, Donald A. Somerville on Instagram. Also, that's my personal thing. So love to hear you. Thank you so much, my brothers. I love each of you. I appreciate you. I celebrate you because I believe wholeheartedly with all my heart that you are the answer to every problem and every ail in this society. And I can tell you that from a statistical evidence perspective of research, because although I'm sexy, I'm a nerd and I read all the research. And so you like that, Puma, right?
Let's go, baby. You gotta
All right now. You gotta tell me those times. I might be sexy. I know I'm sexy, but I'm a nerd. Okay. So that's it. Thank you for your time, your energy, your love, your strength. Go out there and raise amazing children to do amazing things, so that when you close your eyes and take your last breath, their statement about you will be, "I have a wonderful father."
Definitely.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Just to let the brothers know, sorry, Puma. I'm gonna let you give your thought real fast, but to let the brothers know, this will be on the YouTube channel. Brother Somerville, links will be in the description below. So when you rewatch this great conversation, click the links. It's gonna lead you to where he's at and what he's doing, and follow him and just love what he's doing. Puma, you had a thought, and after that, I know Ron been listening. I definitely want Ron's final thoughts because he's one of the key facilitators of the group. So I'm gonna let Ron end it. But Puma, go ahead, Puma.
Well, I want to say thanks to the brother for coming out and doing what he did. Like his first nephew said, he's the man. We appreciate you, brother, and I'll be giving you a call for sure. Turn over to Ron.
Definitely.
I'm definitely an entrepreneur.
I'm gonna turn it back to Ish because although I've been listening and I've been very much appreciated, I've been cooking dinner and doing a couple other things, and I just want to make sure that Ish gives it its just due. It was very appreciated.
No, I appreciate you, Ron. I know you multitasking, being a single dad, cooking, listening, and you do what you're doing. But I definitely wanted your final thoughts on it because you're one of the deep thinkers of the group. You're silent, but you have, in your small window of your comment, it has a lot of meat and potato on what you said. So that's why I want people to just hear from you. But again, this has been an amazing conversation you had at the network. Again, we get here every Thursday, 7 p.m. We have amazing guest speakers like Brother Somerville, and we will have more in the future. And before we end, I'm gonna let Puma talk about what we're doing when it comes to the fundraiser.
Okay, guys. Yeah, like I said earlier in the chat, on the call that Real Dads Networks just celebrated 20 years of service, and it's a nonprofit organization, and it's 20 years of service of time. And with nonprofits, we do a lot of stuff that costs money to pay out of our pocket. So we always, do promotions. And Derek and I are really weak at asking for money. We never want to ask for money. But at this point, we've taken on some big endeavors, man, that we're learning how to ask for money now. We don't feel good about it, but the big endeavor we're putting on now is that we open up a family center in East Harlem on 99th and Madison, man. It's going to be Real Dads Family Center because dads also is family. A lot of folks say, yeah, real dads, what the moms? No, real dads mean real families too. So we opened up a Real Dads Family Center, and Derek has a goal of raising 1 year of rent with this promotion we're doing now, with this GoFundMe right now. So anything will help. A penny, $1, $5. Don't, whatever you can afford to donate, it's a tax write-off, and we really appreciate it. And we're gonna do good work like we've been doing. Like I told you before, we're not doing work for money. We're doing work because it's what we do. For 20 years of experience of doing it for free, we know we are doing it for free, but we need more help now because we want to reach more people and help more people. So now we got to pay rent every month. So we definitely got to have some real money. So if you guys can donate to realdads.org, we greatly appreciate it. And thank you, brothers, for being on. And Brother Somerville, I'm gonna talk to you soon. Thank you, guys. Peace.
All right. We love you guys. Have a good night. Again, the GoFundMe will be in the link in the description below. Support whatever you can do. That definitely means a lot. And we're out.
Thank you. Peace.